Hi, this is David with EV World News. We talk about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets. Today, I've got engineer Mike Herzog with me again today, as it's Wednesday. How's it going, Mike?
Great, David. Thanks for having me on again. Appreciate it.
Always glad to have somebody with some technical expertise to talk about some of this stuff. You're gonna have to start reminding me though when I say something wrong, so people won't, you know, bug me. I'm certainly won't.
That's the internet. Nobody will let you
Yeah,
win, but
right,
don't
right.
worry.
No, no, everybody wants to correct me when I do something wrong, right? Yeah, but, anyways, yes, the grammar Nazis are out in full force on YouTube, that's for sure. Let's see what we got here. So today, the first article I really want to talk about, this is coming to us from Reuters, is about automakers drive to avoid China's EV rare earth dominance. Now, we know this is a big criticism of the EV market, is that we're so dependent on China for the materials in the batteries. I'm sure you hear a lot of this too.
Mhm.
So, the auto industry is expanding efforts to cut rare earth EV use. Alternatives are now commercially viable, and rare earth magnets will still dominate Chinese via or dominate via Chinese EV makers. I mean, China's making most of the EVs now,
Yeah, yeah,
which is really strange to think about how car manufacturing is shifting from US and Japan to China because of EVs, isn't it?
yeah.
So,
It's a lot of forethought. You want to say on their part of understanding the value of those elements and what it looked like and ramping up that production value. Now, I will say I've followed energy storage for a number of years now, and the number of times I have seen there's a commercially viable product, there's a breakthrough, there is this has come out, and this is going to revolutionize, say goodbye. And it's not, it's not clickbait. It's not the ads popping up. It's somebody synthesized this, somebody replicated it once in a lab, and now all of a sudden they say it's you can make that jump to commercial viability and what it looks like. So I hold my breath a little bit on some of those and what it looks like. Now there is incentive, at least nationally stateside, to move away from that. It's security, right? If we're
right.
relying on these materials for our day to day lives, and if it permeates electric vehicles even more than it does today, or electric vehicles permeate the space more than they do today, we're going to be more dependent on that. And it's just very interesting. Side note: we're here in Nebraska, and it's a publicly traded company. There is a potential rare earth site here in Nebraska, in middle of nowhere, rural space. Uh, why is it there? Don't know. We speculate maybe a asteroid or a comet. Something landed there, a big meteor. Million years ago, 100,000 years ago, whenever it was, and embedded itself. But there's a deposit in the challenges of making that viable commercially and setting up the operation and setting up the mining and putting all of those things together. Um, it's staggering how high that is, and every time they think they're just about there, it just nope. There's another hurdle. Nope. There's another environmental permit. There's we forgot about this part. Now it's going to cost that much. So it's where these elements are available and where it's at, even in Nebraska, and where it's stateside, and it's not that far away from infrastructure.
I forget the name of the town. There's a town about 30 miles from Kearney that they call Other Planet or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah. Yeah,
Maybe
it's
that's
just
where
it's
it's
very
at.
interesting. Why did these end up in these spaces and where they're at? I think there's been spots in Brazil and spots in China, and the remoteness of them and where they are. It's just why I don't know. I don't know,
Yeah.
but it's a challenge.
Well, back to the Reuters article, General Motors, Land Rover, and suppliers like Borg Warner are researching or have developed motors with low to zero rare earth content, such as magnet-free, externally excited synchronous machines, which generate a magnetic field using electric current. And others like Nissan are going further with a dual strategy to develop both newer EESM motors and to also develop permanent magnet motors with rare earth content will be gradually eliminated altogether. Currently, China dominates the mining and processing of 17 metals known as rare earths, although companies elsewhere are trying to loosen China's grip. That's pretty big if there's 17 of them that China really
Mhm.
dominates. German supplier ZF has developed an ESM motor that they said matches the size and performance of permanent magnet motors. So that could be a pretty big change. I've seen, discussions about it in the batteries about, switching from the lithium to some things that are
Mhm.
more readily available here in the United States.
Yeah.
But it's a matter of, you were saying that people come up with things and they probably work, but the thing is a lot of these things cost way more money to bring the resources together, or it's a great idea as long as you can get somebody to drop $200 million to get the initial cost of building the plant and the specialized machinery to extract it and all of this. And some of it just
Mhm.
gets to be a little bit unrealistic because nobody wants to be the one to drop
Yeah.
that money in there. And that's why in a lot of things in the electric vehicle space, you see a lot of government push and a lot of government funds to try to work with us. Bill yesterday was saying on the show that worldwide fossil fuels get almost $1 trillion annually in subsidies in some
Subsidies.
form. And it could be subsidies, tax breaks, whatever, but
Mhm.
it makes you think there should be plenty of money worldwide to develop
Yeah.
some of these other
It'd be
technologies.
interesting in fossil fuels with such a developed space, when you actually start to look at the supply chain and production chain, where those numbers could be out there when you start to add up. Well, they get a subsidy on trucking or some type of cargo transport or the widget that they put in this plant that drives this and whatever it looks like. And that's one of the big challenges with all of these new breakthrough technologies and what it looks like. We are so good at building processes and building
Mm.
efficiencies and finding ways to reduce costs and everything like that, where yeah, you can pencil and paper some of these processes out, but boy, if you make one mistake and somewhere in that process it's an extra 10% than you thought it was going to be, all of a sudden your economic equation blows up. Like this is not viable anymore, and what that looks like. So it's
Yeah.
interesting as these standards and industries develop.
So let's see. This is kind of interesting. The average EV permanent magnet motor uses around 600 grams, about 1.3 pounds of heavy rare earth neodymium. Prices have fluctuated greatly for neodymium at around $125 a kilogram now, down from almost double that last year, but it's still almost double what it was in 2020 when it was only $65 a kilogram. Now it's 125. It seems like there's a lot of fluctuation in something like that. The rare earth free alternatives avoid those wild price swings. But anyways, I just thought that was kind of interesting to see because at some point the world won't be reliant on China exclusively for being able to bring that sort of stuff to market. Now,
I would say I'm
let's
even surprised they take that much rare earth. I know in some of them, it's, you want to say like a drop in the swimming pool, and it makes steel that much lighter and that much stronger. And why they've started to incorporate these in there, they've done really well. So even it's a pound. Even I know that doesn't sound like a lot in when you're talking about a vehicle, but
right.
a little bit goes a long way with those materials.
I was watching somebody holding up a entire front end assembly of a car that was made from carbon fiber, and he was holding it above his head with one hand, and apparently it only weighed 20 pounds as carbon fiber. If it had been other materials, it would have been about 120.
Wow.
And that's one of the reasons why they like, doing the carbon fiber on the race cars
Mhm.
and stuff like that is because it's so strong and yet so lightweight.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so our next article is about EV maker Canoo. And as I was mentioning previously, Canoo has had some publicity for doing things with NASA. This one is about Canoo is making its first vehicles in the state of Oklahoma. So apparently they have a manufacturing spot, I think in Enid, Oklahoma. Not 100% here if that's the location or not, but here's what the Canoo vehicle looks like. And it's very futuristic little design. Like a small cargo van. Would be a good thing for hauling tourists around. I could see this being something really efficient for taxi services, things like that. I don't know if these are a full speed vehicle or a low speed vehicle. Canoo officials said they've already delivered electric vehicles. Oh, and these are for the state of Oklahoma. So Canoo had 3 made in Oklahoma vehicles they're delivering to the state of Oklahoma. And we're excited about the potential of an Oklahoma manufactured vehicle being part of the state's fleet and look forward to further evaluating these vehicles as part of our broader initiative to modernize the state's fleet for more efficient state government for taxpayers. They're the first vehicles to be built in Oklahoma since 2006, and they're expected to create 1,300 jobs in Oklahoma. That's pretty cool because you don't see much of that.
No,
Um,
that's great.
Not a place you'd think of.
No, and the idea of that vehicle and what it looks like what you mentioned. I mean, as a fleet vehicle where
Mhm.
you have a fixed route, you have a fixed job duty for what that looks like. I mean, that's great. That's great for the state and what they're doing, what they're looking at.
The state of Oklahoma has reserved the right to purchase as many as 1,000 Canoo vehicles. The new Canoo facility is in Oklahoma City, 630,000 square feet they acquired a year ago. So let's see what they've done here. There's been a package of incentives said to be valued at more than $300 million, including 15 million in cash from the governor's Quick Action Closing Fund, which is to be paid out as the company meets a series of performance metrics. So don't know what of that has happened, but certainly is going to drive some jobs. I mean, it's pretty typical for states and municipalities to invest money. They say that their incentives, this could be everything from not paying property taxes for 20 years. So that $300 million quite likely is spread out over 10, 20, 30 years. So it's not like it's somebody just
No, it's not.
cut.
It's not a
People,
lump sum cash
people
in a
always think they drop
briefcase.
them a check. It's kind of like the support for Ukraine, where people think that all of those billions of dollars were sent over there in cash. And it's like, well, they weren't. They were sent over there in weapons that the United States was going to have to dispose of, or we bought them from allies of weapons they were going to dispose of. And so we basically gave them our thrift store merchandise, but we valued it at full price, which is kind of goofy. So, if we were selling that at a fire sale, that $60 billion worth of aid would have probably been like 2, $3 billion, and but we valued it,
Good
giving it
old
to
counting
them.
tricks.
Yes, it is. It is, and it's
Mhm.
not at the value we paid for it. It's at the value what it's worth to replace today,
Yeah.
and so that is kind of fascinating as well. So our next one is about a European car maker, Renault. The French car maker teases a new affordable electric city car, and this one comes from Electric. There is the Megane E. Renault is teasing an electric city car to replace the Twingo as it gears up for Investors Day tomorrow. Will be as cheap as the Dacia Spring, Europe's best-selling and cheapest electric car. New EV unit Ampere will reportedly unveil the new urban EV this week. So we're not necessarily getting too much here. Chances are it'll be priced around 20,000 euros, maybe even closer to 15,000 euros. That would really be bringing it down. Um, let's see. The Dacia Spring, which is Renault Group's cheapest EV, is just a little over 15,000 euros. So be interesting kind of see. That's really getting into some less expensive cars. I don't know if some of that savings is due to the fact that maybe they have less safety standards. So that's a big part of the cost of cars in the United States is
Yeah.
safety standards. I've liked the fact Elon Musk is thinking that if the tech and the cars can become enough that the cars don't crash anymore, maybe you could reduce
How does that?
some of
Yep.
the, some of that cost from the safety standards because so much goes into making that piece happen.
Yeah,
And this,
and that's one of the challenges we have, with EVs and especially these smaller vehicles that have come through, like smart cars,
Mhm.
and everything that are small. It's I have kids. I'm cognizant of those things of that car versus an Escalade or a Tahoe or something like that, Suburban. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's going to get crumpled. And it's just a fact of our roads and something we always have to be cognizant of. And it definitely influences our decisions, I would say, as it goes through it.
So I've owned a lot of large SUVs, and the insurance rates on some of them, particularly Tahoes and Suburbans, is really expensive, and I was really curious as to why. And their reasoning is because they cause so much damage to other vehicles in an
Mm,
accident. It's very lopsided. And I mean, it's not that you're not safe in them because you are. The insurance cost isn't high because the vehicle's unsafe. It's because it's not necessarily safe for somebody else if
the other
they get
people.
in an
Yeah,
accident with you. And I thought, well, that's I guess that's kind of
there's something
telling
to
that,
that.
the liability is greater in one because they cause so much more damage than, like you're saying, if you got hit by a smart car, you might not even get that badly hurt if you were a pedestrian.
Mhm. Mhm.
Whereas, um, I one time when I lived in Memphis, I saw where a Ford Explorer pulled out in front of a cement truck and
Mm.
got pancaked. I mean, it's just hard to really imagine the disparity there, but it completely crushed it flat.
Mhm.
I mean, it's hard to imagine that there was people
Yeah.
in that
Yeah.
in that vehicle. Um,
Oof.
Yeah, I mean, it is, but that is part of the disparity of different vehicles. And you look at where we live, our part of the country, we have lots of big EVs, and we have a lot of pickup trucks.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a lot of pickup trucks in this part of the country because a lot of people do work
Yeah. It's
that
it's
needs
you
that.
know it's part of their jobs, and that's one thing that we see around here now. There's a lot of suburban warriors, in different places what it looks like, and I want a big old truck, and I've never hauled a thing in my life, but around here, it's day to day work. People do
Yeah,
that. People use those vehicles for their jobs. Yeah.
right. So our last article for today is something that would be more on the engineering side.
Mhm.
And this comes from Clean Technica. And this is something a lot of people always talking about. What are we going to do with all the old batteries from EVs? And this one of the things people don't understand is that the batteries don't go bad. They just degrade in use. So at a certain point, if your car battery is only getting 70% of the range it once got, you might get rid of that car. But what happens is then the batteries are getting pulled by outfits like this. This power and energy storage system uses former EV batteries, and they may, typically they're still going to get probably 80%, 70%, or whatever. They're not going to have the same remove, pull.
Yep.
They're going to take better care of them to get more life out of these batteries. But it's interesting kind of to see because it's not that the batteries need to be recycled; they're simply going to be repurposed.
Yeah, 100%. And this is a fantastic use for them because there's two pieces to it. One, there's power and energy, and the energy is your range. That's how long they go for, and those definitely degrade over time. But at the same time, you lose power. So at some point, there's like the oomph that you need from it to when I step on the gas and I need to pass not the gas anymore. When I step on the pedal and need to pass the vehicle as it goes through, you need that oomph. You need that instantaneous discharge of a battery to go through there. That degrades over time as well when you see it. But in an application like this, where we just need you to turn on, you need your output. You used to last for 5 hours, now you last for 3 hours. That's fine. We planned for it. It is a fantastic use to repurpose those vehicles. They're not vehicles, but the batteries from those vehicles.
Yeah, it's interesting. Oh, when I see an energy storage capacity is written as megawatts to over megawatt
But,
hours,
yep.
and
And
this is
that's the power and energy. So your power is megawatts, and then your energy is megawatt hours.
yeah. So in this particular case, this project has 3 megawatts of interconnection capacity, 6 megawatt hours of storage capacity, expanding to 12 megawatt hours, And the hybrid system is 1.56 megawatts of power generation and will supplement with grid charging as needed. That is, and they're deploying batteries that came from Honda Clarity battery electric vehicles. I like this question. How did you find the Hondas? They're asking the real questions
Yeah.
here. We collaborate with the original equipment manufacturer, which is Honda, directly to source the batteries for this for the I don't know how to pronounce it. Kuyama,
Yeah.
Kayama. We're working directly with Honda to source the Clarity batteries. When you get
Ba-
second,
Basically, we got a warehouse full of them because this vehicle's not selling. So you want them cheap? Yeah.
these are all the trade-ins off
Yeah.
the fleet cars. When you get second life batteries, what is the process to start working with them? Let's see. We're able to deploy EV batteries in our original pack casing utilizing the pack's native battery management software, which eliminates repurposing costs. In the case of the battery cabinets, we deploy 24 Honda Clarity EV batteries per cabinet. Do you test them and pull them out of vehicles that recondition and then transport them? We assemble and test the cabinets at our hub in Lancaster, shipping the pre-tested cabinets to the project site. This is kind of interesting.
Mhm.
Permitting authorities require energy storage systems to achieve UL certification. Uh, Company provides all the pertinent tests. What does it cost to buy a used one? There's not an established market for selling used EV batteries. This obviously, if you're in a car accident and your vehicle gets totaled, the insurance company then auctions off your car more or less. They take offers, and depending what your vehicle is, it might sell for 1,000 to $3,000 to $4,000. I'd imagine the battery packs are going to be worth quite a bit.
Quite a bit. And what a lot
And
of people don't think about or realize when even up to electric vehicles that they're basically a whole bunch of AA batteries
mm,
stuck together. And you package them into smaller units, and those get packaged into bigger units and bigger units until you build it out. So it's not, you think about, wow, your vehicle has one battery. No, your vehicle is made up the same thing that's in your power tools. Your battery powered power tools. It's just packaged differently. So it's not like, well, this piece of equipment failed, now it's worthless. Well, no, some of them are still probably good. They don't all degrade at the same time. Some may be damaged, some may be still okay. So yeah, absolutely, there's a lot of salvage value in those. And that comment previously of like, hey, we're able to keep the same packaging that they were in. So, well, you don't have to take them apart. It's bricks. You're building Lego battery bricks and just stacking them together and putting them together to increase that power output and energy.
here's the staggering bit of knowledge here. Does it cost less to buy former EV batteries than new batteries? And the answer is yes. It's like, yes.
Yes.
How easy or difficult is it to add more batteries to the stationary energy storage price? It's simple. Our tech allows for batteries to be deployed in plug and play fashion. It's like, it's
Yeah.
like, do people not own flashlights?
Yeah.
They've never taken a battery out of their phone and put another one in there.
It's just
Um,
like that. It's your battery powered drill. You've got one
yeah.
charging in the wall and you have another. You take it out and charge the other one and put the other one in. It's the same technology. People think it's some
So
some wild breakthrough of fundamental. No, they're just batteries. They're good old flashlight batteries.
this is the same size as my original cell phone. Okay. And it
Mhm.
had a battery that slid off that was about here. And I always had one on the charger and I had another one on the phone. So I always had the extra battery. But that thing was huge. I always felt like I could call in an airstrike or an artillery strike with my phone because it looked like an army field radio. It wasn't something you just stuck in your pocket either
Yeah.
because the thing was enormous, you know. But they, they were they were really big. This is back in the early 90s. And but yeah, it's not like this is all that amazing. Um and let's see. And in this system, they've got a hybrid system charges from on-site solar and then supplementing with when needed with grid charging, the solar resource is strong. Over the course of a year, a single megawatt of PV on a single axis tracker can generate 2,400 megawatt hours of energy. In summer months, it can generate
Hmm.
10 megawatt hours. The 12 megawatt hours of battery storage can reliably be charged by the 1.56 megawatts of on-site PV. When needed, the system can be supplemented with grid charging. Well, anyways, I just thought that was kind of interesting because that's one of the things that we obviously, for a lot of renewables need battery storage because there's such a big mismatch of when renewable energy
Yep.
is available for people to use. And like right now, I have solar and I'm sending it back to the OPPD,
Hmm.
and then at night I buy it back, or I don't really technically buy it back. They send it back to me, and then at the end of the year we figure out who owes who, you know.
Hmm.
But it's just kind of a
Yeah,
different
no,
process.
it's awesome to see those actually put into practice and people putting those things together and repurposing and reusing because that is they're good. They're good for a long time. If you don't have to count on it to drive every day and it's just yep, it's there. We know the old girl ain't what she used to be, but it still works out fine. And it's like, my gosh, what a great use for it.
Anyways, Mike, good show today. Appreciate you being on.